It's only natural to exercise every advantage you could possibly implement.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Without government intervention blocking you. That's natural.
If you don't need to sign anything or see it, if your social security number doesn't need to end up on a piece of paper, or you have to get it in a brown paper bag behind a gym.
Oh,
then you're
never
natural.
mind. I thought it was natural for a minute. I'm out.
I saw what you were thinking. Saw what you were thinking.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. Dusty Hanshaw, producer Scott McNally, and, of course, myself, Big Ron Partlow. We are back with another episode. It is Monday, but kind of Wednesday for you, and we're happy to be here. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
There we go. There we go. A nice, normal ring the bell that time, you know?
Yeah.
We had a few. We had Stu ring the bell last episode,
nice.
Didn't we? You know, we had a few little things like that. So it's good to change it up, but we're back. And we were going to jump right in. Of course, we got a lot to talk about. There's the New York Pro happened. We got some great questions, but we're going to jump right in to the 3 machines you should be using. Isn't that the topic, Scott?
That's the topic, man. That's a good
or was
one,
it
too.
Trend? The 3 machines.
The 3 machines you should be using. Yeah. just for the the hits that way.
Okay. Okay. We have to give the audience a bit of the backstory. Scott, the producer, has discovered that the word trend seems to work very well.
Yeah, it just gets more hits for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. It works.
I know what that means. Interesting.
The kids like their trend. Okay.
Okay.
We're good. So, you have any thoughts on this? Dusty? 3 machines that you should be using. Of all the machines in the gym that we use, what are 3 that you think really stand out as important and a positive advantage to a bodybuilder?
Okay, so this one's really, really simple, but it jumped to my mind immediately because I don't think it gets enough love. The seated leg curl is the best leg curl there is. Without question.
Agreed.
And I know this because Joe Bennett said so. So don't listen to me. Joe said
next
so.
Topic.
And that's that.
And
so
done.
Get yourself a good seated leg curl and call it a day. No, it's funny because that it always felt best to me because you have to focus on a lying leg curl. You know, if you're good at it, you're keeping your hips pinned, all those things. A seated leg curl is like grip and rip. It's right up my alley. And then Joe said that, and I was like, well, I was right. There we go. So that's my first. What do you guys think?
Okay. Well, no, give us all 3.
All 3. Okay.
Are we going to do all 3? Is that how we're doing it?
Yeah, we could. Or
we could discuss.
Yeah, we could do that. Or we could all give our
opinion.
Give one.
Yeah. And this is in no order, right? You're not saying this is the 3rd most important. You're saying
no.
This is one of the 3. Okay.
So that's a good pick, Dusty, and here's why that's a good pick. You're loading the muscle from a more of a stretch position than a lying leg curl because you're flexed at the hip or extended at the hip or flexed at the hip. Yeah, flexed at the hip. Mm-hmm. So you're loading the hamstring out of a stretch, which is more advantageous for hypertrophy, we think, and it's harder to cheat at. So those are 2 good things for most people. Secondly, the hamstrings are really hard to train with only free weights. You basically got stiff leg deadlifts and dumbbell leg curls.
True.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be, let's say you're a minimalist training with barbells, dumbbells, and a squat rack, a seated leg curl is like a huge piece for your gym. Because now you're hamstring training. Now you can actually get Tom Prince hamstrings.
Yeah.
Even though you've got a garage gym. There you go. Okay. Good pick. Because, leg, hey, if you're going to pick 3 machines, it's hard to almost not make all 3 of them leg machines, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
what I did. That's what
I
did.
My gym would be just leg equipment and then a barbell and a rack. I'm like, all right, we're ready.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I did, except for the dumbbells and then I guess I have one that's on the list. It's not a fun one. It's not like an exciting one, but I guess the hamstring curl isn't either. But I want a good pull down because I feel like I can only do so much with pull-ups, and I feel like that's for back training. I can do all the rows I need with dumbbells and barbells and T-bar rows. If you don't have a T-bar row, if you don't have one of those landmines, you can just stick it in a corner, put a dumbbell over it or something. tear up your wall. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Get someone to stand on it.
House is paid for. You're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Worry about it when I go to sell, Until then.
In the old days, you just got your partner to put their foot on it. Make sure it doesn't come up.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't want them to drop when they were doing that. You ever have a guy just drop it and it like jams your ankle? You're like,
ooh.
Really, dude? You have 900 plates on there and you dropped it. I have a question on your pull down, Scott.
Yes.
What do you think is the correct length where the cable is over your head? You know the ones that are like way over top of you? They're like straight up. Then you've got cables that are a little forward. Because I have a very strong opinion on that, but I wanted to hear yours. Like,
you know what?
For the perfect one.
Yeah, I guess it really would be the perfect one. Now, my pull down is an old one. Shout out to Rick Davis, my dad's buddy. He's the one who gave it to me. When I was a kid, I used to go to Rick's house specifically because he had a pull down. Like, we had all the weeder set at my house and the steel plates and all that, but Rick had a pull down. So back day, I'd go train at Rick's house, and his was pretty much, it's just traditional, straight up, just right above you, I guess. It's not too far in front of you, but I do feel like if you wanted to lean back a little bit, you could pull more toward you. So I don't know. I'm not sure what you're looking for here, but I haven't really thought about it. It's I guess just straight up above.
I find that some are actually so much over top of me that for my mechanics, I am forced to lean back more than I want to pull down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have no choice but to turn a pull down into a high row.
Okay. Yeah.
So I like them just a little less, to where if I'm sitting under it comfortably, it's actually like it would pull down straight in front of my face versus like hit me right in the head if it were to fall off.
So Dusty's like more picky about his pull downs, and
yes,
my training partner is the same way. Because we have the old Flex Fitness 8 stack that has 2 of them.
Yes.
And then we've got the yellow Life Fitness 5 stack. Yeah. And we do our pull downs mostly on the Life Fitness because of that reason. You can kind of get the pads up on your hips and you're and you're underneath it. Whereas on the Flex Fitness, you have to sit back a few inches and the pads have to be on your knees in order for you to get like the right angle. I don't go heavy on pull downs anymore, like relative to my body weight. So I don't really care which one we use. Like I don't mind at all. I'm just doing pull downs. But I do know a lot of people prefer the Life Fitness one just because of exactly what Dusty's talking about.
I will say this too. For me, the pull down, as much as I used it all my life, I feel like it was a complete waste up until I changed my technique. I used to like basically just work my armpits. You know what I mean? The way I was pulling down, it was like an armpit exercise. And what I found personally worked for me is I track my elbows almost in front of me. Like imagine when you do a pull over, the way your elbows are tracking in front. It's like that more so. My elbows track more in front, and then I get the contraction where I need it to be. And literally until I did that, it was like an armpit exercise. I have like the most ripped armpits you ever seen in your life.
My teres major are huge.
That really is what it was. It's just a teres exercise. Yeah.
So if I had to pick one, I think an exercise that is really difficult to recreate properly with free weights. I mean, you can do it, but you got to like set benches up and, build a bit of a Tetris tower. And have all the other stuff. And if it's a busy gym, you'd have to like take up, it'd just be a pain in the ass. But a lying chest supported row.
Those are great.
I just think of how much you can actually do on it. Like there's been a few times where, I was in a pinch for a fast back workout or something. Maybe I was training by myself that day and I had to hammer back quick. And maybe the gym's busy. I remember being on that machine and being like, I'm just going to do 3 different grips on this.
Right.
And like call it 3 different exercises, and I'll change my angle a bit on each one. I'll reach more for the one and then I'll sit up a bit more and I'll pull with my lats more on the third one, But a good chest supported row is so invaluable and you can do so much on it and it's really hard to recreate all that stuff. You can lie on a bench and pull dumbbells, but it's not the same. That nice big arc you get and the strength curve on it too. Because, when you're pulling dumbbells, you've got a very level, like the dumbbells weigh 80 pounds the whole way up or 100 pounds the whole way up. But with that strength curve, you know, you get that really heavy load in the stretch, and as the arm comes up, it technically gets a little lighter. So you've got a bit of almost like a pendulum squat the opposite way, you know, like into the contraction gets a little lighter. So it's proper strength curve on that exercise. So it's great for back. You know, I see some people don't use it, but it's awesome.
It's great too if you have a back issue, like a low back issue, because sometimes, you know, you're in a position where it's like, oh, I can't bend over and support a barbell row or even a dumbbell row, but I could still do a chest supported type thing, you know?
Right.
Yeah. The things you learn about your body when you get older and you have to like be more careful. Are you know what I mean? Like there's a bunch of stuff I don't do anymore, right? Because I'm like, oh, well, it serves no benefit. It might be fun for me to do it. It might be cool, but it doesn't benefit me at all. And there's a bunch of stuff that I just don't do anymore. And the lying T-bar has actually become more valuable to me, you know? And I've seen lots of bodybuilders, like, I mean, we all know guys that didn't like everyone knows someone who didn't ever deadlift and they have a great back. Like those guys are out there. But if you look at their workouts, they're doing a lot of that stuff.
Right.
So I'm not saying it can replace it completely, but it sure does seem to work well for some people. So
agreed. What about a Smith machine? Because to me, a Smith is 900 exercises.
Yeah, it is.
When you really break it down. And it's one thing I'm particular about with the Smith machine is it needs to go all the way to the ground. I don't even understand these ones that come like, you know, 12 to 18 inches. They have a stopper at the bottom. I'm like, you've just killed like a lot of exercises for me.
You have to stand on a block and
Big fan of Smith because of the training I did. You're training to true failure, and there is a safety fact of you're never afraid to go for that rep. Like it doesn't matter if you miss because there's a click somewhere on there that you can get, even if you barely get off your chest, to lock in and wiggle yourself out. And I think that is a huge advantage, especially because, as we all know, getting a good training partner is difficult. Getting a training partner at all is hard. Getting one that comes every day, really hard.
Yeah. I squatted on a Smith for years because Dorian did. Like, Dorian Smith squatted. And I mean, so I was like, oh, well, that seems to be a sensible way to squat then. So I just squatted because Dorian Smith squatted. And I would train by myself most of the time. So I would do a lot of that, like, okay, I just got that rep. I probably won't get the next rep, so let's get a negative. And I would sit down and rack it. I
love that mindset. So let's do it anyways.
Slow sit right into the hole and then rack it and then get out, pull some plates off, put it back up, do my next set.
Yeah. Yep.
So I did a lot of that with a Smith. I know people make fun of it. I mean, we've all taken part in the make fun of the Smith machine memes or whatever, laughed at a joke or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, some of the most hardcore badass bodybuilders use Smith machines, you know?
What do you guys think about the Smith machines that they don't go straight up and down, they're at a slight angle?
I've always disliked the 7 degree or the 5 degree or whatever they do with it. Smith machine. I don't understand where that came from. I would actually like to know, maybe a viewer out there knows, because there's guys out there that are like way more equipment nutty than me. Who's the first person to make an angled Smith machine, and why did it catch on? Does anyone know the answer to that question? Because I have never preferred them. You've been forced to train on them many times, right? There's a lot of gyms, that's all they have. A lot of brands, that's all they make, right? But right now we have an Atlantis straight up and down, and we have a Cybex straight up and down. And now that we have 2 straight vertical Smiths, every member I've talked to has been like, wow, these are way better.
Yeah.
So you have to change everything. You know, if you're squatting on an angled Smith, and you have to put your feet a little more forward to kind of compensate because I like to squat as if I'm just under a normal bar.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I'm not doing Smith squats with my feet forward like some people do. Those are so awkward. I've never liked them. I just squat like I'm under a normal bar. I try to not be in the Smith when I use a Smith. I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
So I just want the bar to be vertical. Like just don't mess around. So
Agree.
What about you, Dusty? Are you agree with that on the angle?
Yeah, I think that the guy who had an equipment company that made Smith machines realized that he could probably con people into buying both.
Yeah.
So he just created this thing, and now he sells 2 to every gym instead of 1.
Yes.
And that's always been an irritation to me. We all know this. I don't know why these new gyms that are like millions and millions of dollars the day they open, why they don't have someone that knows equipment come in and buy stuff, because every gym has the Smith everyone uses and the Smith that no one uses.
Right.
You're like, it really would be nice if we had 2 of the Smith everyone liked.
Yeah.
Just a thought. I mean, like you said, Ron, once you went to 2 verticals, you look over, the one's not available. Oh, that's fine. The other one is.
Yeah.
No
take
problems. That, So yeah. I agree. There's a couple things that if they're there, you can do. Like if there's a all the way to the floor slight angle Smith, I'll row on it. Because I actually like it to row more into my waistline, so it's going away from me and then towards me.
Yeah, that's a more friendly use of it. You are correct.
Yeah.
But again, but at the same token, like, I'm in the midst of looking at equipment and buying some stuff for a gym, and I have no intention of buying one of those, even though that's a movement I like to do.
Yeah.
We will just have 2 or 3 straight up and down Smiths and call it a day.
Have you seen the ones that have like springs at the bottom?
Yeah.
So you get down to the bottom and then there's a spring, so you don't just dead stop it; it bounces.
Yeah, there's so many things I don't like. Or the ones that I thought were cool on paper were the ones that actually free moved, but if you let go of the bar, it stopped.
Oh yeah.
But now, as somebody who's spent time in a gym, I'm like, that's just shit that can break.
Yeah, a lot of pieces.
That's just something that could go wrong, because I think people really underestimate. If you were to sit in Ron's gym for a day and just watch the Smith machine, watch how many people use it every single day. Like, you want to make it as few parts as possible so it doesn't break. So I feel like a lot of those newer ideas they're cool ideas, but they can't stand the test of use over time.
Yeah.
I told you about the new hammer hip thrust we got, right?
Yes.
You did, yes.
How I just stood there when we first got it on the floor. I just stood there for 20 minutes staring at it thinking, look how big those bolts are.
Those look like Dusty's joints.
Look at those welds. Yeah, those welds look like Dusty's elbows. They're not going anywhere. Those like big, thick tubing. It's like, I'm like, it just said this, we're going to be okay. You don't got to worry about me. That's what that machine was telling me.
You got to worry more about the building than that piece of equipment.
Will that
north wall stay up?
Yeah. It said to me, in like 10 years, throw some new upholstery on me, but I got this.
It's so true.
So we got a good top 3 there. And I think we got an honorable mention of the Smith machine.
Yeah, I tossed that in.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other honorable mentions, Ron?
Well, I mean,
we can go on our mentions for hours.
Well, yeah.
Machines you should be using. Well, everyone should be hack squatting, properly.
Yes.
But we've talked a lot about the hack, so that's why I left it out. We've already done many of our hack rants. Dusty's got many to his credit, I'm sure. So
I love cables. If I was going to toss one more thing in,
oh yeah,
I can train arms only on cables, and they will grow. I wish I would have known 10 years earlier in my career that the constant tension meant so much to my biceps. Like, I think, and it's funny, but I've had actually now at this gym, kids walk over because I'll get a cable and I just won't leave. I'll do my whole workout standing right where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then eventually someone comes over and I'm like leaving. They're like, where are you going? I'm like, home.
Yeah.
Like, you only do cables? I'm like, that's all I need. They're awesome.
I remember, the whole machine versus free weight debate. Like, it's always been a thing that people like, back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Although there's less purists now than there used to be, right?
Yeah.
But I remember one time on a message board or somebody was arguing about machines and cables, and they had Dorian as their avatar. And one guy came on, he's like, You have Dorian as your avatar. Watch Blood and Guts. It's 70% machines. If you math, this is how many exercises he does, and he like listed them.
He's like being
this
literal.
Is how many machines? 70% machines, and it was just funny. The guy was like, "Oh,
yeah,
you know, I didn't notice."
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what about the New York Pro, guys? We got to talk about the New York Pro. We just had Beef Stew on the show, and he goes and battles for first.
Yeah, he looked incredible.
Comes out with a second place at his first pro debut.
Second. Yeah, he did a show right after the USA's last year.
You're right. He did that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So second place, he looked awesome, and it looked like they had like a top 2 call out. You know, like a final call out that he was in.
Yeah, they worked him, and you know, I was biased for Stu, obviously, but it was nice because I felt like when it came down and I really looked, the conditioning was just a little bit sharper. Well, it looked like you were like going to touch his shoulder there, Scott, when you touched your face. You know. But it was great to see 2 guys. I mean, you're taking second to a guy that was in the Olympia last year at your second pro show, and you're not getting walked. I think that's a pretty awesome start to your career. And he won the hair, and that was a tough hair contest because they both have good hair.
Yeah, they both had their own thing going on. Could have gone either way, you know. Could have gone either way for the hair.
I think the Bruno Mars thing put Stu over.
Yeah,
you know, just got that little famous click to it.
I wonder if he's going to change it up, like shave the head for the next show and just like throw people.
His mother will kill him,
or if he's going to like trademark it, kind of like Cbum with the mustache.
Yeah. So we were talking about that on Blood, Sweat, and Gear, and he was saying like I'm kind of stuck with it now. He was like everybody likes it; it's like part of his brand now. So we were coming up with the idea of like imagine a silhouette of him, you know, with the hair, and that would be his logo, and it'd just be like Beef Stew, you know, written around it.
But you know, eventually, as he gets popular enough, like you'll go to shows, and everyone will just have that wig in the audience.
Yeah.
That'll be like his support team. You'll look over his whole family's got the wigs on. You'll know.
Somebody commented, they were like, that looks so stupid. Why did you guys have that bodybuilder put that wig on? Are you just trying to get more clicks or something?
Speaking of looking stupid,
I pinned it. I pinned that comment.
You gotta put a comment like that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That one's gotta go up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What'd you think of the show, though? I mean, there's some new blood there. I mean, it wasn't the same old names. You know what I mean? You got the buys.
I didn't
and
watch a
tries
ton. I
there?
just caught the. I just went and looked at the results. I think what I liked was a lot of people were, at least on my Q&As, were asking like, why are none of the top pros doing this? And then I saw the pictures and I was like, it looks like some of the top pros would have found themselves in trouble in that show. Like it wasn't like there was, we're on the third tier pros here. I mean, they were bringing it. I feel like a few guys definitely, set notice of things that are coming. I mean, imagine Stu in a year. And I know he's competing again shortly, but I mean, he only went from the USA's to the New York Pro as his off season and is 6-7 pounds heavier and much harder.
Yeah.
What would he do if he took a whole year off and did the New York Pro again? You know?
Yeah. And he was saying that he felt like his back was his weakness. But honestly, I feel like and sure, I could see maybe improving it, but his back for a weakness isn't like really that weak. You know what I mean? And
no.
I wonder if I could find that shot because I felt like by comparison, his back held up just fine. I don't see that shot offhand. Maybe I can find it post production here and put it up. But like I thought from behind, he was looking awesome. I thought it was a great show. And I mean, yeah, for being such a young guy, I could see him only doing better from here. And yeah, if he's going to compete again now, like in California or whatever coming up, I mean,
yeah,
I think it'd be awesome.
This
sure.
Joseph Kvitin, who was third place, he's good, man. He looked really good. He's from Czech Republic, apparently.
Where's that picture? You got pictures there, Ron?
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up here.
All right.
Yeah, I got like pictures of him just in his. This one came up, but he's like this dude here. He was third.
Okay.
You know? And yeah, he looked good. He's got that, like just hardcore muscle. Says he's from Czech Republic. So I saw his name on the list, but I'd never seen him compete before. So, it's funny. Sometimes you look these guys up and you're like, oh, like some of the European guys, you're like, oh shit, he did like 20 shows in Europe and then he, came to the IFBB, some of those guys. So I have to look this guy up and see, I know he's pretty young. So I think he's in his early 20s. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, man. And then Joe Seaman was fourth. Big, huge Canadian guy.
Yeah.
Really thick. Yeah, good condition. He was fourth. He's got a ton of muscle on his body, man. That's, he's one of those Ottawa guys. I'm not sure if he still lives in Ottawa, but he's one of those guys, the 7-plate for rep deadlifts and, the big, huge squats and all that stuff. He's like one of those big, thick guys. So he had his like best showing ever, his best placing ever. So that was good. See a Canadian up in the top group there. And then Eric Wood in fifth. Do we have pictures of both those guys?
No, I don't see any of them at the link you had sent me, Ron. I see just the top two.
Yeah, so let's this guy here.
I mean,
so here's Joe. Here's Joe. I mean, Joe is, he's probably close to, I don't know what he weighs on stage. He's probably, fucking 260 something. But
at least.
Yeah.
There we go. So, I mean, he would, he's huge.
He definitely brought his physique up in a way where I felt like before when I watched him, for lack of better terms, it was kind of a mess. It was a ton of muscle, but it didn't look great. And now it's starting to like really come together in a way that, honestly, as a fan, I didn't know he'd be capable of. You start to realize, like, if you add muscle in the right places like he did, I mean, it's pretty drastic. Because I had seen him in the past, I was like, oh, he's big. But I mean, he's going to have a hard time with these other guys that are just shaped so much better. And now he's really narrowed that gap. And I'm like, man, I'd love to know what he did, because he had to have made some tweaks to how he was attacking his physique to do that.
Right.
And it looks like his conditioning is just incredible too. I mean, he was everybody was really on point in this show.
I sent you another one there. If you look at the IG.
Oh, yeah, I can find that. You sent me Eric Wood here there.
Yeah, I sent you Eric Wood in fifth.
Yeah, he looked incredible, man.
Yeah. I want to, show these guys. These are like the new guys coming up, getting top 5 at New York. We'll see how these guys move along. So they're, just showing up in great condition and getting a good placing.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of muscle. Check out this.
Look at that adductor.
No kidding, man.
Yeah.
Check out this lat spread too. This is great.
Oh yeah.
Just a lot of density there.
He's a monster. Jeez. I like seeing all these people that I don't know who they are, and they're just absolutely insane.
Okay, I got a good one here. I'll send you this one.
All right.
Coming. This is that Joseph Kvitin.
Oh, okay.
That got third. I found a good back double of him.
Oh, that's a great shot. There we go. There we go.
I think it's cool they let him pose out by a park instead of on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bomb.
Yeah, that's a great shot, man.
Look at the calves. I don't like this guy.
I know. It's the first thing I noticed. I thought
Scott doesn't even notice him. He thinks nothing of it. He thinks that everyone.
That's normal. Isn't that normal? Everybody's got calves like that.
Dusty, some people don't understand their privilege.
They don't exactly.
They don't recognize their privilege. People with calf privilege.
Doesn't everybody walk around like that?
Just oblivious, just happily wearing shorts.
They don't know the struggles.
Going to the beach
through.
and frolicking at the beach.
It's all I've ever known. I just thought that was
some of them are even arrogant enough to wear shorts when it's cold
in the winter. Just yeah.
Like
we have problems too, though.
Fall.
Like when you have to get knee sleeves on. You always have to put them on inside out on the calf, and then pull them right side in over the calf.
It's so tough.
It's the only time I feel like Kai. Like I try to put knee sleeves on,
sleeve into rolling up your leg,
and I'm thinking like this is Kai trying to put his pants on every day.
Yeah,
it's tough. I don't know.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to be you.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on TMZ right now listening to you tell me about your
listening to Paris
privilege.
Hilton complain about her driving her car service.
Yeah. You know how hard it is when I got to pick a car every morning and
I don't know which limo is mine when I come out of the store sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the same.
Freaking
Same as
tough.
calf
Thanks.
people. I call them calfed people. They're
Calf.
calfed people. They're calf.
There's calfed people and there's the non-calfed people.
The non-calfed people, yes.
Yeah.
So
Decalfed, if you will.
decaf.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh goodness.
Yikes.
Okay. I've got a good question for you guys.
Yes, you
do
do.
it.
You know, we haven't had a question where we can really, really dig in and purposely piss anybody off lately.
Oh, it's time.
So I thought that this might be a good one. I thought this was a good one. I got this one. What do you consider nowadays? What do you consider natty? Does Clen count? T3, SARMs, peptides, a little GH? What if you use some insulin? What is natty?
That's a good question.
That's a phenomenal question.
People are already getting grumpy.
Anything you can get without a prescription is natural.
Right. Right.
Because it's only natural that you would take anything you can get without a script.
It's only natural to exercise every advantage you could possibly implement.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Without government intervention blocking you. That's natural.
If you don't need to sign anything or see it, if your social security number doesn't need to end up on a piece of paper, or you have to get it in a brown paper bag behind a gym.
Oh,
then you're
never
natural.
mind. I thought it was natural for a minute. I'm out.
I saw what you were thinking. Saw what you were thinking. If the government can arrest you for having it, even though you didn't give them your social security,
I'm out.
That's funny. Yeah, because
what do you guys vote?
Well, I mean, the whole natty thing has been interesting because for me, natty has never changed. It's nothing. You're using nothing. Like, you know, I remember dieting people for the natty shows, and this is also a bit of a sore spot for me because I consider so if someone's going to call themselves a trainer, their natty clients, the drug-free clients that they have, are the litmus test for their actual knowledge.
True.
So if there's a coach and they've got successful natty people, like coming in, ripped glutes, looking great, winning natty shows or whatever, and I'm talking about bodybuilding here because the whole women's natty side is a completely different animal of,
right.
You know, that's a very difficult game for coaching. But you know, you see guys that have good potential and they're natty and they're coming into shows peeled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's I love seeing that. But for me, natty's always been natural. Like I remember when you couldn't use ephedrine, you would fail your drug test or you would fail your polygraph. Remember those natty federations? There's still natty federations that use polygraphs. So you can't use ephedrine, you can't use any of that stuff. So this new definition of some of the new generation, they're doing the natty shows that aren't actually tested. They're like, you know, where you declare yourself a natty.
You're kidding me. I didn't think that was a thing. I didn't know that.
And yeah, there's federations where, well, you can still be tested. They still test the winners and stuff.
Oh,
there's
those.
No, like,
yeah.
There's no like, you know, polygraph to enter the show. There's a lot of natty shows like that.
Yep.
You know, the NPC has like, there's natural shows up here in Canada. They're run by the CPA where, you know, they test the winners, but you know, you just enter as a natty. There's a lot of people that think that, oh, well, I mean, I just use SARMs and peptides and, you know, I just, you know, took a bit of insulin to carb load and stuff, but like, I'm totally natty. And to me, that's just not how it works. Like, it's just not how it works. Natural's natural. And it's frustrating. And especially like, I know natural people who enter natural shows, and I know that some of the people around them have, you know, use some Clen and use some Cytomel and use this and that, or, you know, and then now everyone's like, oh, well, I'm on TRT and I have a prescription for Cytomel, so I can still do natty shows.
Yeah. And they're just cranking along, right?
You know, and it's, I get it. And yeah, I have sympathy for guys that like obviously if a guy's 40 and he's on TRT, you know, I mean, UFC is letting fighters have isn't it TRTs allowed now in a bunch of sports now?
Yes.
So the whole natty thing is getting just so, what does it mean now anymore? And I'm not saying we have to stick to the old definition.
Right.
And I'm not saying that I'm not interested in changing what that means or whatever, because I'm a big proponent of TRT. But I'm just saying, like, people are not on the same page as to what
I think
natty
they
means.
have to. They should establish what it is in any organization. Because all kidding aside about what we said in the beginning, like, I have no respect for someone who is going to enter a natural show knowingly not being natural.
Yeah.
And if you know that the rest of the people in that show are not taking all this stuff, then you are not natural. I mean, let's be straight here. And I feel like if anything, that takes, you know, it takes somebody that's pretty weak to go target a show that they know they have better odds of winning because of that. You know, next thing you know, you're a dude swimming with girls in college. I don't know. I'm just saying.
It's a slippery slope.
No, but I mean, seriously, that was always an irritating thing because I would bring a lot of natural guys in and very, very good, like genetic freaks where people probably thought they weren't natural. And then you see someone else that you personally know and you're like, why are you here? Like, you know better. You know what I mean? So I do think they need to establish that very firmly because, you know, like you said, as long as it's written in stone, then you're fine. You know, I mean, there are ways to do that. Like, you can test someone. I mean, it would be not cost effective, but you can make sure that their test levels in their blood are at a certain number. And I know there's ways to manipulate, and that's up to the athlete. But at the end of the day, if they said, okay, as long as your test levels are at 800 when you take your test 3 days out, I guess you're fine. You know, at least there's some form of control is what I would be looking for.
I had a guy contact me a while ago, and he was like, "Hey, I'd like to, you know, work with you for this upcoming show." And I was like, "Okay, well, what's your history?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I just won this show, and it was a natural show." And I was like, "Oh, you just won this show?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, because he was saying like, I'd like to get a cycle together for, you know, and do this show. And I was like, "Oh, so this is your first cycle?" And he's like, "Yeah, my first cycle." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So, you know, when you did this natty show, you know, send me what you were eating, and I just want to see like what you did." And he sends me his info, and there was a drug cycle.
Really? Huh.
He was using Test-Prop and Cytomel for like 8 weeks, and then he just went off the Test-Prop like 2 weeks out from the show.
Yeah.
So you pass.
And he won the show. And I'm like, "Oh, so you weren't natural?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was."
Well,
and I was like,
if it was I want to jump in. There's a difference too. There are tested shows and there are natural shows.
This was a natural show.
Yeah, because we got to be clear. There are two different things. Like if you go to IFBB Worlds, that's a tested show, you know?
Yeah. Here's how I've always defined it, coming from the old school.
Yeah.
There were untested shows, there were tested shows, and all that meant was everyone, you just had to pass a drug test. We're just trying to make the people in the suits happy. No one gives a shit. Just don't have anything in your system because the international IFBB wants you to pass this drug test at the Worlds.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what that always meant. And then there were natural shows, which was like a code of honor.
Yeah.
These are for natty people. And it's really frustrating because you see like people who work with a lot of natty competitors, and they are bringing their people in natty. You know, like they're not using ephedrine. They're not using anything. Like it's real hardcore natty.
Yeah.
And then, you know, someone who's on, you know, Test-Prop, Cytomel, and, you know, a bunch of SARMs comes in and wins and wins a show. And it's just like, it's you know, it bothers me a little, you know, it's not something I'm a fan of. Like to me, a natural show is still supposed to be natty, you know?
Right. I agree.
I mean, every federation's a little different. There's been natty federations that allowed ephedrine. There's been natty federations that, you know, certain things were all right, but for the most part, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. So John Hansen had used gear. He's Mr. Natural Olympia, and or Mr. Natural Universe is Mr. Natural Olympia.
I can't remember. I love him, but go ahead.
Mr. Universe. Yeah, that's what it is. But he's talked about it openly, and he said that he qualified because he had tried gear, he had built his physique, and then he tried gear, and he's like, I don't really like this, and then he looked into competing naturally, and then they said at that time it was like, well, you had to be clean for 2 years. So he's like, okay. So then he went back, and then from there it extended. And after that, it was like 5 years, and then 7 years. But he followed the rules. So there is that. Yeah, I don't think personally. My definition, if everybody's welcome to do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, we have to be honest with ourselves. At the end of the day, it's the only person that we really we need to be honest with is our own personal selves. I don't know, man. I'm not with that. So you guys have had people. Have you ever had anybody ask you to help them pass a natural show? Anybody that wanted to work with you that was intentionally? Yeah, you have, baseball. Dusty. Okay, now what do you guys think of that? Is that the same?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said at Major League Baseball. I had a lot of that.
Oh,
so is that the same to you guys?
No.
Yeah, me either.
Because they're all doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've had a couple of. Yeah, I had a couple of CFL players. I've had some which is Canadian football. For those of you who don't know what CFL is, it's a 12-man 3-down ball.
Yeah, pretty fun, actually.
Footballers. Yeah. So, anyways, I've had CFL guys ask me like, "Hey, can you help me? I got to pass a drug test. I don't know what to do." And I'm like, "Oh, well, what are you doing?" And I just consulted with them, and I've had people ask me to help them pass drug tests at tested shows.
Okay.
One guy was doing a tested show. It was like an IFBB tested show, and he was like, "I'm this far in, and I didn't really realize what was going on.
Yeah.
What do I got to do?" And I was like, "Oh, well, drop this and this now. Just be on this. You should be okay." So, I mean, it is different. To me. That's always been different too. No one cares about testing. And then the people testing don't care about testing.
Yeah, they don't want to catch you. That's the funniest part.
They don't want to catch you. Yeah.
They want you to get away with this so they can get the answers they want. But to answer your real question, Scott, I have, and I've turned people away.
Yeah.
I've just told people. But the nice thing about that situation, and I'm not typically overly soapboxy, but I will tell them straight up, I think it's a scumbag move that you're going to follow through on doing this show, and that's why I won't help you.
Yeah.
Now, they don't care, and they go do it anyways, but I just like to say it because it is funny. It's like there are plenty of options for you where you're competing on the same level playing field. Why would you not? I mean, like you said, do a tested show where everyone's doing it, or do the NPC Open and do whatever you want, man. Gas it up. Enjoy yourself.
I'm working with a guy right now who has been 100% natural, and he's getting ready to compete in an open bodybuilding show in Classic. And we added in some Clen, and he's maybe a few weeks out now. So, he's going to be going against guys that are going to be completely gassed up. And really, he's already in shape. And the only reason I want to do it, he doesn't have any kind of moral opposition to running a cycle or anything like that. He just wanted to do his first show without being, on the sauce. But we added in some Clen because I like the drying effect. And we're pulling some water with it. So a low dose of 25 micrograms Clen. So technically he is not natural anymore, but we're going into an open show anyway, and he already had lines in his glutes before we started the cleanse, so he's done a solid job with that. But it's funny, man, because you'll see it the opposite. He's going to be, and I've had that, where I've seen it a lot is in men's physique guys. I've worked with a lot of natural men's physique guys who were going into open shows at the state level against guys that are totally gassed up, and they've won. These guys still have won because at the end of the day, it's really just about getting into really good shape and having the muscle shape that you need.
Have you guys ever helped a natural guy win a totally open show?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So natural guy won totally open show.
Yeah, in cool. Men's physique, I think is the only place I have.
Right. I had a lightweight bodybuilder win an overall at a regional show. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and just because conditioning, he was by far the best bodybuilder there. So that's always fun. Natty and shredded.
Yes.
Okay. You know,
I always felt like the natural shows the guys were more shredded though, like across the board. Dudes are just sliced out of their minds.
Nobody's bloated.
Yeah, they're thin, but I think that's the other cool thing about it, though, is I respect people that get in shape because that's the one thing that you can control. You know,
yeah.
So you can be a smaller guy, you can be a lightweight, and if you're sliced, I'm like tipping the hat. Or you're a big guy, it's ugly physique. You did what you could. You know, that's the one thing you can control, and that's just effort.
Yeah,
you got another one, Scott?
Yeah, well, you sent me a bunch of stuff, and we had some listener questions from YouTube as well. But I wanted to jump into some of the stuff that you had, Dusty. So let's just start from the top here.
I wanted him to be able to put them on the screen. I like it on the screen.
Yeah, how about this one?
I like to read it.
28-year-old Arnold versus a 28-year-old Cbum on stage, head-to-head. Who has the Olympia?
How old is Bumstead right now? I
have no idea.
He'll perpetually be 22 to me.
Yeah, right?
So, because the reason I ask is like basically in my brain, you know, Bumstead over the last 2 years is almost unbeatable.
He's 28 now.
There you go. Yeah. I got Bumstead winning. There's the answer. Like you said, he is 22.
Yeah.
But
you imagine imagine the 70s, like, so it'd have to depend on what judging panel. Like, if you put Bumstead on stage in the 1975 Olympia, like, I mean, to us, he clearly wins.
Yeah.
But do they mark him down because he's, like, weird looking? Like, they wouldn't know what they were looking at. They'd be like,
yeah, it's like, so different. We've seen the evolution over time. Like, imagine think about like the first
hams.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. What happened?
He's happened?
Sick. There's something. You know what's crazy though is I look back, for example, and I have Franco beating Arnold in some of those Olympias because of the way I see bodybuilding. You know what I mean?
Like completeness and legs.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
the
balance
legs
of
were
upper and lower
blown
body.
out. Yeah, so it's like you're right, Ryan. I didn't even think about that fact. I almost think you probably nail it. Is back then Arnold would win, and the judge is now Chris would win.
Right. You know,
that's valid. I thought
that
was a great question.
After the show, like what you have this weird look, like we don't know what to do.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
be a meeting.
Probably go to a doctor.
Yeah. I've got. I had one. Unless you got to go, Scott. You want to hit another one?
Go ahead. I've got a bunch more, but hit it, man.
So I like this one. What's the lowest amount of volume, total working sets?
Oh yeah.
That you've ever used for like a decent period of time and seen gains?
My entire career. Yeah, for me that would be easy because let's say just like back. I used to do 3 sets for back and go home.
A week.
You know. Yeah. Well, not because it rotated. So some weeks it was 3, and then like every third week it would have been 6 because it'd be 2 separate back workouts. But yeah, so that was totally normal. And same thing goes with like quads. It would be like 3.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's really interesting to when I look back, and it now in hindsight I wonder like where is that line, because 2 is drastically less or 33% less movement. Like it doesn't seem like that could possibly be enough.
Right.
But maybe it could have been. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but I really do think that is more genetic than I realized because of the fact if you were built for bodybuilding, like truly born for it, I don't think your joints would stand up to what I had to do to myself in 3 sets for it to be enough. You know, like there's a reason that these guys don't have to do that. And it's also because they couldn't, like they're not made to do that. You know what I mean? Like some of these little tiny joints would just have problems insanely when you're built for, I don't know what the hell I was built for, but not bodybuilding. It's different.
Hockey fights.
Yeah, exactly. I've never broken anything in past my wrist in my life. That tells you something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Many broken bones, fingers. That's all.
I think the lowest volume I did true Mike Menser heavy duty at one
no
period.
way.
Like I think I did, I think I don't even know if I followed it perfectly because I added a couple sets, like I just couldn't do, because the heavy duty plan that I saw was like 2 working sets for some body parts, and I know I added a third for quads and a third for back, so it was extremely low. But I actually still have that logbook.
We got to see that.
And
we got to see that.
And I had strength gains. Like my strength, I remember this vividly because I was doing hack squats on this this was back in the early 90s. I was doing hack squats and my hack squat was going up every week. And I remember writing it down, like every week I had a rep more.
That's
And
nuts.
I remember adding my 5th plate. And I was like, oh my God, I'm on 5 plates now on the hack. And like, this was in like 1994. Like,
okay.
Like you didn't see 5-plate hacks a lot. Like people were like,
yeah,
oh, you're going too heavy on this. But I was getting like good, solid, like really aggressive sets, And I remember thinking like, wow, like, this was what I was really experimenting with. I hadn't gone to Dorian. I had tried Dorian training and then I went right down to Menser. Like, let's just see how this goes.
Yeah.
And so I'd already had gains training like Dorian, and I cut the volume even more, And I remember my strength was going up pretty consistently, but I remember the scale wasn't moving, and that bothered me. I was like, I'm not getting bigger. I'm just getting stronger.
Right.
Like it was like,
right.
Kind of a weird thing. Plus, I was really young and like,
you also
hormones
just wanted to
raging.
Train more. You just wanted to train more. Let's be honest.
I just wanted to train more too. And I remember clearly I was still living at home. I hadn't left home yet. And I remember my mom even said to me, she's like, you're only going to the gym like 3 or 4 times a week now. Are you not enjoying it as much?
Yeah, you're quitting.
And I remember saying,
funny.
no, I'm just trying this like lower volume program. And I remember my dad knowing nothing about training, right?
Yeah.
Like old farmer, like no concept of what I'm doing. And I remember him just saying, doing less? Doesn't sound like it makes much sense. It looks like it's hard
to do. I love that. Oh my gosh,
right?
That's
like,
great.
That's a general logic.
Finding a way to do less.
Yeah,
typical kids. Typical.
Finding a way to do less. And I was like, oh, I thought I was being smart. And my dad was like, sounds lazy.
Meanwhile, you're on this five plate hack squat.
On the hack squat.
I didn't know that we had the same dad. That's cool.
Yeah.
Things we learn. Oh, that's good stuff.
I got this picture here. Check this out. This is 6 months of progress in my 40s. Doing 3 sets, 3 maybe 4 sets of back training per week.
Damn.
I'm so glad you posted this, Scott, because I actually, when we were talking about the back training before, like earlier in the day, you had shown me another like gap difference in this. I don't think it was this picture. I think you might have even been posing, but it was so drastic. So I'm glad you put these up.
Thanks.
I didn't want to ask you on the spot to find them.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the the erectors.
This is the same amount of gear too. I was running like 600 tests. This is just a couple of years ago.
I also love the timeline because you guys get that question often, like, how much muscle could I actually pack on in my 30s? I'm like, well, apparently that much.
You know what it was too? It's 40-year-old guy, guy in his 40s who's running a bunch of gear. You know what I mean? It's not like it was my first cycle or something.
Yeah.
Food wasn't really different. I just learned how to get a better, and it really, man, it totally clicked. And after I figured out how to get the activation that I needed out of things like that lat pull down, like I was talking about earlier, and then into the dumbbell row. Those were kind of my 2 exercises. So it would be like 1 to 2 sets of pull downs, and then working up to 1 to 2 sets of dumbbell row, just right here in the basement. it was like a light bulb turned on. And then what's cool or interesting, I would see like my Facebook memories come up of like me doing a mountain dog workout 5 years ago with Shelby in the gym. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I can totally see why my back wasn't growing now back then.
Right.
Like, I'm training with a pro. We're doing a John Meadows plan or at a time a Jordan Peters plan. It's like, I wasn't getting the activation I needed. I wasn't queued up to activate the lat first. So it's like, it wasn't going where I needed it to,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was the best, man. I had one here, guys. What was this? It was, what do you guys think of full body training at a higher level?
I'm interested in like, I still think that there's, the whole frequency versus volume ratio.
Yeah. Yep.
I still think that like there might be a lot of size out there in the right combination of those two with a high frequency. Like doesn't Scott do really high frequency?
Yeah.
Or is that Skip?
Scott's fortitude training plan is a full body workout. So it'll be like a hard upper body with a pump lower body, then a pump upper body with a hard lower.
Yeah, but the volume's quite low per body part, right?
And it'll be like repeated frequently. Yeah.
In a session. Yeah. I mean, I sort of did something like that a long time ago. I did this Bulgarian power burst training when I was in high school, where it was like every body part 3 times a week, but with only one exercise. And, really one main set, I think it was each time. So the frequency was a lot higher, volume was a lot lower. It's all about getting it set up right so you can recover, stimulate adaptation and recover from that stimulation. Those are 2 of the keys. Yeah. So I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm just saying I never figured it out. You know what I mean? I think when it comes to high frequency training, I always had a really hard time doing like just one set or whatever is required, or not going to failure, or whatever the other requirement is for really high frequency. So that was always difficult for me, but I'm sure there's a way to do it.
Hey, Dusty.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I had a question for you about this, but go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like back to being a 5-year-old that's trapped in an adult body, I like to go into the gym knowing what I'm going to do, meaning press. I'm pushing today because they're all the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm pulling, it's all, even though it's back and buys or whatever, I feel like I'm doing the same thing. I wouldn't want to go into the gym and be doing benching and squatting in the same day, because I do actually approach the gym differently when I walk into those 2 things. Like, there's a certain amount of strength that comes from the fear of leg day. That walk in and you're like, I still get that like almost uneasy stomach driving to the gym every Sunday. It's like, we're doing this again. I don't know why we're doing this again, but we're doing this again. And I do feel like that pre-umped feeling when you walk into the gym, by the time you're touching the bar on your back, you're in a place, you're ready. I don't know that I can get to that as my 5th movement of the 5th body part on a training day. So just for me personally, and that's why I never was tempted to those things. I was like, because I just approach it different. Like, I don't want to go into a bicep workout thinking that way. My bicep is like only bicep. Don't get too heavy. Do you feel your bicep the whole time? It's like a conversation with myself the whole time. Where are you feeling this right now? Because the moment I'm sloppy, my shoulders are growing. And I'm like, that's why my biceps sucked for 10 years. Awesome.
I also have one of my apprehensions for full body training is that it takes me so much effort to warm up.
Did you know how old we
body
are?
Part, and I got to warm up
all of them.
I got to warm up every body part now, every workout.
It's a 7-hour workout for Ron.
It's just like really
20 minutes of training
time here. If anything, I'm gravitating towards the less exercises more sets per exercise so that I don't have to move around as many times and I can get out quicker, like, instead of doing one set of pendulum, one set of hacks, maybe I'll just do 2 sets of pendulum. I don't have to do another warm up and another prep set, and you know what I mean? So that sort of thing.
Do you guys find that as you get, so when I'm in the gym now, I like watching the younger generation and stuff, just to see, and there's so much warm up that takes place that's not taking place under the bar. And I find that interesting. Like, I used to go to the gym, walk over to the bar, and warm up on the movement I was doing. Like, it might be 5 touches on the bar before I'm getting after it. They'll do 25 minutes of shit and then do a warm-up set 1, and then they're doing their max. And I'm like, you wonder why you're hurting something. Like, warm up on the movement you're doing. I promise it's better.
Yeah.
So I want to say something here. Again, I'm not a scientist, but I think people waste so much time on activation stuff. Like, just get in the exercise and do a 20 rep warm up with a plate aside and get your, like, I got to activate my glute to turn it on because it's not on. Like,
so they're just off most of the time.
Yeah. And then I got to activate my hamstrings, get them firing. Like, no, that's not how your body works. Like, the nerves are attached. The electricity is instant.
Yeah.
Like, I got to activate this, activate that, then put it all together. No. Just get in your first exercise, throw a plate aside, do 20 reps, do a couple 20 rep warm-ups. Everything is going to have a pump now. You're good to go.
Yep.
You got to maybe stretch a little bit if you need some mobility in an area. You're working on your hip or something. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But perfectly healthy people with nothing wrong with them spending 25 minutes activating their glutes before they train is a waste of their time. It's maybe 5 minutes is going to benefit them. I don't know, but there's way too much focus on this stuff. You just warm up in the exercise. Everything will be there when you need it.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, Ron, is like something a very advanced person would do when they recognize that there's an issue, right?
And then I think, and
that maybe that information then is getting, spread, and then everybody thinks that that's what they need to do too,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Thank you, Scott, for the diplomatic add-on at the end of that.
Look at the armed man coming in with the Canadian adjustment to clean up your conversation. There we go. Let's be nicer when we say this.
I think the audience is all wondering the same thing we're wondering: is what is your concealed carry today, Scott?
Concealed carry of the day? Well, nothing. I don't need to conceal because I'm in the house, but I do have the G45 with an extendo sitting right next to me.
Just in case.
You can see
just in case.
This is what the extendo looks like. It's like,
there you go.
just
show
case,
that part.
Just in case someone hostile comes down the stairs into the podcast room.
Yeah, in case we have a situation, it shall be covered.
Scott actually doesn't lock
over
his
here.
front door.
Yeah.
He lives in Detroit and he leaves the screen door open. That's it.
Yes.
Maybe today will be the day I use the extendo. We'll see.
So how do you guys handle this one? Considering the previous conversation, because I wonder if this would be something where you would do something different. I don't know. He says, question for the guys. I'm basically a full year into lifting, but I've noticed that my left pec is noticeably smaller than my right. Any idea how to fix this? And he's 18 years old, so he started training a year ago.
It's very possible that, it could just be a relic from previous sports and stuff. Like maybe, I don't know, like I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe he was throwing with his one arm in a sport for 3 years, and there's a little bit more neuromuscular maturity going on in the one pec, because that happens to people. Like they're just that pec's a little bit more developed from pushing on something 10,000 times doing a certain sport or whatever. So sometimes you just need to put a little more effort into getting that other pec, like some extra sets of flies on that side or something like that to get it. Also, like, videotape yourself. We have all these advantages now that we didn't have. Like, video your sets from the front or from above, so you can see where your shoulders are. Maybe you've got one shoulder up while you're pressing all the time. You got to, like, get your form locked in. Make sure you're using both of your pecs properly. There's a few things it could be, but I would say just start by auditing your form and your execution. And also be honest about what you may have previously done that may have benefited that one pec, because then you're going to understand how to compensate more.
Yeah, I would say you nailed everything. The only tweak I would add, and I'm learning this with because I've gotten really obsessive about having clients send videos, is have someone more experienced watch the video. Because I am finding, like, you get a lot of people sending you videos, and you're looking at the video and you're like, okay, this is good. This is good to see, because there's a lot of mistakes, which means we can make a lot of improvement. Yeah. But if you're looking and you're only looking at one thing, like, yep, both of my hands coming down at the same time, we're good. But where is it going? So those are the things that only a more experienced eye would see, that hopefully they can help you on some cues to feel the body move. Because I agree with you 100%, Ron. It's probably something previous, or like most people, if say he never played sports, then he's right or left-handed, and that's the only hand he uses for anything.
Yeah.
So that alone means that whole side is functioning better. You have a better connection to that whole side of your body. Ask an average person at 18 years old to throw you a ball, then say, okay, now toss it to me with the other hand. Yeah. And you're going to realize how much that doesn't, correlate. And we all remember when we were younger that if you were on dumbbells, one side's done and the other side's not.
Yeah. You learn pretty quick that you're right-handed or left-handed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I knew a guy that got into bodybuilding, and he had been a skater for years and years. Like, he lived on his skateboard. Yeah. And he had one calf that was slightly bigger than the other. Like, slightly bigger. And he started training. That calf grew a lot. And the other calf barely grew. Like, it grew, funny. But the one calf, 2 years later into training, one calf's like a half-inch bigger, the other calf's like an inch and a half inch bigger than it used to be. Wow. And he was like, what do I do? Like, one calf keeps growing. And I'm like, that was your push foot. Your nerves are firing better. You might even have more. Who knows? Maybe at that age he activated more satellite cells into muscle cells. Like, maybe he had maybe he actually has more muscle cells in that calf now. Yeah. Because of, like, everything he did, like, we don't quite know all this stuff. But that calf kept growing, and he was like not training that calf at all, just training the other one. That's wild. There was just more potential for growth locked into it.
I'll throw something else in too. That I think that when we get into bodybuilding, we start becoming more self-aware, of what our bodies look like. And even if, like, we can all pick ourselves apart and be like, oh man, the peak on this bicep is different than the peak on this bicep, and this arm looks bigger. So sometimes it isn't as dramatic of a difference as we see in our own eyes. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know if that's the case.
Exactly. Like, I have lots of clients who are like, well, even one of the best examples is Phil Heath. He said once that his one arm's an inch bigger than the other one, but no one notices because his arms are so crazy. Yeah. But even he noticed it. He was always aware of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and Jay had that one leg that was bigger than the other because he broke that one femur when he was a kid. Oh yeah. And he always had one leg that was bigger, and he just stood a certain way in his front double and just made sure no one noticed it.
What about this one Dusty hit? I don't know if you guys want to do a second Q&A episode or keep rolling here. We're a little past an hour in. But regardless, I've got something for you to chew on here.
Okay. We can do this one.
All right. It says, I'm having trouble living in the past, constantly reliving my mistakes, causing depression. Any advice?
This one could go deep, Dusty.
Yeah, I purposely am staying quiet because I have answered these before on my page, so I'll answer, but I kind of wanted to get your guys' spin on this thing, because for me, this is relatively simple. It's just changing your mindset.
I think that my advice would be you have to find a way to focus on the future, the now and the future. And we can always put what we've done, we can always put it behind us, and we can always move on. Everyone, like I've talked about how I don't really have regrets because my mindset sees everything as connected. Like, I wouldn't be where I am now if I changed anything,
Right.
even moderately important about my previous life, and that's true for all of us, like just the way everything interconnects, so I would focus on the great things that you have and realize that you might not have those great things if you hadn't have made those mistakes either. Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe there's something in his life that's really great, like he's got a relationship or a job now that he likes or something. You realize that this moment now would not exist if you changed anything. So it could go a lot. You could go back and change those things you regret, but then it might make your life worse in a way. You could wind up in a worse spot now. Yeah. And you just have to be able to just think, okay, well, I'm not going to make those mistakes again.
Right.
I'm not going to make those mistakes again. I'm going to learn from them, because learning from our mistakes is really like one of the key things that we have to take responsibility for. We have to learn from our own mistakes. Like, that's if we can't do that, then you really do doom yourself in a lot of ways if you're unable to learn from your own mistakes. Learning from other people's mistakes is a great, if you have that skill, that's awesome, because then you can avoid them. But at least learn from your own mistakes and try to focus on how you can make things better in the future. I don't know. That's a great question.
Well, I remember in 12-step learning the difference between guilt and shame. Because when you get into 12-step and you recognize the mistakes you've made and how you've hurt other people and how these things, like, that bothered me more than hurting myself. Like, I was always okay with like making self-destructive decisions, but when I actually started recognizing, how selfish I had been and how much of an effect that had on other people, it had a profound effect on me. And I felt a great deal of guilt over it, which is okay. It's okay to feel guilty, because guilt it's a sensation that we don't like. It's unpleasant, and it's a good reminder to not do that thing again. On the other hand, if you feel shame, then you become paralyzed by it. I don't know what the definition is of, I'm going to look it up really quick. What's the definition of shame defined? Because I'm curious now. Shame is a painful feeling of humiliation. So yeah, if you live with that sensation of feeling humiliated, and deflated, that's different than feeling guilt. Guilt can be a positive force if you let it, to not make that same mistake again, like you were saying, Ron. Whereas if you're paralyzed by it, though, you're not going to be able to move forward. How do you do that? I don't know what the answer is, but if he's stuck with it, man, I would say seek professional help. And the way I've always put it is, going to see like a therapist or something, it's literally a trained professional to help you figure out tools, in this case, to like not be paralyzed by whatever shame you had from that past, So I guess that'd be my take. What did you say, Dusty? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, the first thing you actually lined up for me pretty well. You said you want to move forward, right? So if you're moving forward, you shouldn't be able to trip on things that are behind you. You're not going in that direction. So that's the first step, is don't trip on things that are behind you and understand you're moving forward. The best thing you can do is take action, which is better action. You're defined by what you've done recently, and that goes in everything. So you have a team that, wins the World Series this year. Next year, when they don't make the playoffs, no one's talking about last year. That's a good thing, and they've let it go. Well, guess what? The following season, when they win the World Series again, no one's talking about last year other than how much they improved again. And I think that's something that people forget. The other key is, and we talk about this kind of stuff pretty regularly with some friends of ours and stuff, your mistakes prepare you for the life you have now. People who know me well, like Ron, knows some of my lifestyle decisions that weren't the best in my past. And now when I look back, I'm grateful for all of them because they prepared me for where I am now. And I don't think I would be able to handle the situation I'm in now as well without my mistakes, because there was something learned there. Now, I'm not saying, I'm really glad I, did some people wrong or did this or that. But because I did, I'm actually glad it prepared me for the life I'm in now, and allows you to, not only learn for yourself, but also help someone else kind of avoid those things. It's just one of those things. You kind of have to go through things. And sometimes you do make the same mistake a few times before you have to ask yourself, okay, why am I doing this? I'm not an idiot. And I knew it was a mistake the first time. And I definitely knew it was a mistake the third time. I got to figure out what that underlying cause is. So I feel like this guy is hung up on something that maybe the action isn't actually what is the problem. It's the reason he keeps making that mistake, assuming it's been more than once. So, outside of that, it's just you have to move forward, because you can't move forward in anything. And just like think about a car, you can't safely move forward to a new height if you're looking backwards. That's a new accident waiting to happen. So, that's the most simple thing. And then you just got to remember, everyone's the same. The amount, it's the same in sports, business. I always laugh, like knowing friends that are very successful and knowing some of their big misses in business and how only their closest friends even remember those things.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind with your mistakes. Like in 5 years, no one's going to remember that if you started making better choices. Yeah. Or if they do, it'll just be to tell you how far you've come and how much you've grown and how impressed they are by what you've done. So that's my take.
It's a good perspective.
I feel like I had the worst answer of the three.
we utilized each other's to enhance.
I think so. Yeah.
Scott's made me feel inferior.
Well, that's the one. It is funny though. That was something that when Scott first started coming on, that people really appreciated. I literally, Ron, you don't even know this. I would literally send Scott texts and be like, "Nikki says we need more Scott. He has to talk more."
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad people feel that way. At least most of them.
Well, we know a few that told me that I need to stop talking altogether. Remember? He should just not be on the show.
Oh, it's May 24, Ron. Is that what it's called?
What are you talking about?
May 24.
What do you mean?
It's May 22nd.
Isn't that what it's called, though? May 24?
What?
Victoria Day? Isn't it Victoria Day?
Oh, Victoria Day. I don't know.
It's like long weekend. May long weekend.
Well, it is a long weekend here.
Yeah, May long weekend. Dude, I know more about your culture than you do.
It is Victoria Day.
You didn't even play hockey. It doesn't matter.
I'll put it this way. Today is one of the holidays. Today is one of the holidays where no one cares why. They're just like, I don't work Monday.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a lot of those in the States.
It's one of those. It's not an important one. Like no one goes, oh, Victoria Day. We must do something to honor the memory of Queen Victoria.
You get that day off. Yeah.
No.
May long weekend.
So Victoria has her own day?
That's what I said. I congratulated her this morning.
Sounds like a spoiled brat to me.
I'm going to shoot her a message.
Yeah. We watched the new episode of Letterkenny. They put out an episode May 24, which is for the long weekend in celebration. That's the reason I know all this. Yeah.
This is where his genius comes from. Letterkenny. Oh man.
Yeah, that might be a bit
Speaking
of
of
East Coast thing.
mistakes.
I don't know.
Okay.
2-4.
Yeah,
I had Luke text me and he's like, "Have you seen Letterkenny?" I'm like, "I lived it."
Yeah.
A 2-4. You see, a 2-4. A 2-4 is also Canadian for a 24 pack of beer
from the beer store.
A 2-4.
Yeah,
2-4. Go hard.
You guys don't have 40 ounces, do you? You don't have a 40 ouncer, right? You have a quart or something.
Well, I the only time I ever heard anyone use the term 40 was a rapper.
Yeah, we have 40s here.
Yeah, those 40.
Definitely in
beers,
Michigan
yeah.
they do. That's a
Oh
thing.
yeah, Mickey's malt liquor.
Exactly.
Ask for it by
Malt
name.
liquor.
Yeah, because you get a case of beer is 12 beers, but
Yeah.
you get a 2-4 is a 24 pack.
A twofer.
Yeah,
Love it.
get a
We're learning
twofer
so
and come
much.
over, bro.
Yeah.
Well,
How are you
it's
now?
just bodybuilding.
It's like a hockey thing. Very hockey. You and your letter,
Everything's
Kenny.
hockey.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
so that we're gonna wrap that one.
Yes.
That's good. Okay.
Oh, one
Much
thing we forgot
appreciated.
you could just maybe toss in here.
Oh yeah, something about Mutant.
Oh,
Sponsor
them.
the show.
Oh, them.
Love
Yeah.
us. IamMutant.com. Get your ISO surge. Get your all in. Get on the gear. And remember, Dusty 20, Big Ron 20. I love getting the emails that say someone used my code. I love that. I love the little
Mine's
email.
like all day, every day currently with all the shirts.
Yeah, get your shirts, guys.
I get like 5+ emails every. Like I'll be sitting on my phone, ding, one comes through. I'm like, oh, more shirts.
and
Love it.
we
That's
had
awesome.
messages, comments about how fast they're shipping too. People were like, "Hey, I ordered it, yesterday. I got it
Yeah.
today," kind of thing. Like it's happening.
and then
quick.
I saw one that said the codes wouldn't work. I'm just wondering if
Oh no, that
like a
was
browser
that was
thing.
the older shirts. That's why I forgot to answer that.
Oh,
yeah, that
okay.
was because they were looking at the what were
Like
the
they were
what were
already
the
on
last
sale or
round of
something?
shirts? What was our old?
Yeah, I remember.
The slogan. Your slogan.
Yeah,
Train like hell
the train
shirts
like
or
hell.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they were probably
So
on
that's
sale
why.
then, so they couldn't use the code.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Okay. Much appreciated. And remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
okay. Thanks, guys. Remember, it's just bodybuilding.